It's nice to be here in Winterthur. Do I say that correctly?
Yes, that's correct. Winterthur is a very well-known city in Switzerland. It's the sixth largest city, and it's here where industrialization happened in the 19th century. And it's here where one of the early Swiss banks has been founded, a really important bank, which has now become the UBS.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the companies who built up their industries in the late 18th, 19th century here, such as Sulzer, for example, who produced locomotives, they needed money. And therefore, a bank has been founded here, which has become the UBS.
With all this industry, they must have needed a university and eventually a business school.
Actually, this is not true.
Yeah.
Winterthur hasn't been a university city. In the late 19th century, they built up here a school of engineering. That's where Albert Einstein had its first tenure. But it was a very small engineering school. And then nothing else. It was until 20 years ago when the city really had problems with the many industries. Industrialization has become a challenge in many cities around the world, also in Europe. And so there has been a shift to a service industry here in the city, and it has been a shift to an education city. Now, in these days, we have become one of the 10 largest universities in Switzerland, and many of our premises are in the former halls where they manufactured locomotives, etc. So you can really see when you go through the city, the shift from an industry city to an education city. And that's what we stand for. We want to train the future business leaders. We want to train the future engineers for Switzerland. And it happens where the industry had its origins in Switzerland.
Wow, that's very interesting. That shift for the economy was really a big driver for the kind of work you do here. And in fact, if I build on that a little bit with, I guess it's now my third question, right? I was thinking this would be my first question. But tell me a little bit about how you see the role of university or business school in society. I think I know a little bit about where you're going to go with this, because today we talked quite a bit about things like the principles for responsible management education, responsible research in business and management, and talked about GVSM too.
When I walk with our guests and faculty and students through our premises, that I can tell them, look, here we had industries, but the industries have gone. So things change. And that's why we need business schools. We need managers, we need workers, employees in the companies who are able to really help to change companies, that they are able to do the challenges of tomorrow's needs. So we need people who are able to really organize, to really conduct changes in the companies. And business school graduates are able to support the companies and to shape companies to reach these goals.
Now, this is a school of management and law, and you're a scholar in public management,
Precisely,
if I understand
yeah,
things correctly. How do those ideas that you just described fit into the public management context, or potentially even to the law part?
I would say we had for a quite long time a big shift or a big gap between public sector, private sector. And we had scholars in the United States who said the business of business is business and nothing else. I think these things have changed. We know that society depends upon a strong public sector, but also has to build and needs to build upon a strong private sector. And both have to interact with each other, both need each other. We need jobs for the people, but at the same time we need also a framework within the private sector can work, so that we have a prosperous but also just society where people feel accepted and where they feel it's an inclusive society. So I think it's important that business schools have a department of a public sector and also of private sector, so that both can learn from each other.
Yeah, and those boundaries are blurring as you described. Now you were getting at the dynamics of management of business, and technology plays a pretty big role in that, as I think most people would agree. And I noticed that you've written some on artificial intelligence, especially as it relates to public management. Where do you see technology going as it relates to the future of management, business, but also business education?
Our university is a university focused on applied disciplines. We have management, but we also have engineering, life sciences, psychology, health sciences, and some other disciplines. But all of them have the aim of changing society and to improve society so that we have a societal impact. I believe more and more we need a multidisciplinary approach to resolve the challenges of today's world, such as climate change, such as helping to resolve problems of society, such as we have to find solutions that we have a working globalization, which is just, etc. So we need to work together with social disciplines, with psychology, health sciences, and engineering. I think digital transformation can help to reach many of the goals we see, and to help to resolve many of the societal challenges we have. So technology and business have to interact with each other. Technology shapes today's businesses, but will shape even more tomorrow's businesses. We see now the ChatGPT has become public, and it has already changed many things. We have discussed just this week how can we allow students to use ChatGPT in their final exams and when they write their master thesis. And we could prohibit it, but we say, no, we want to allow students to use this technology because it will make things work better, and it may students help to use time for other things and not just for regular things they have done so far, which can now be done through artificial intelligence. So I think we must work towards business education, towards research, which integrates different disciplines. And the management science has a very important role because it is the discipline which links the different disciplines and helps to really focus on how can we implement new technologies into everyday's life of businesses and everyday's life of consumers, for example.
Oh, that's amazing. I like so much of what you said in the last few questions, you know, the idea of cutting across both public sector, private sector, and civil society, but also cutting across disciplines. I'm one of these people that believes innovation happens where different perspectives intersect in generating those ideas and bringing in the technology and the role it plays. This is great. Now we're talking about the future of business education. You brought it up, right? How in your faculty you're dealing with these questions about how the technology is changing the way you teach. And what other challenges and opportunities do you see in higher education as we go forward?
We have a much more demanding clientele. The students are more demanding, but also the companies who hire our graduates are more demanding. But the society in general is more demanding as well. Society expects that we train future leaders who have skills in doing marketing, producing strategies, implementing manufacturing, etc. But they also expect that we have graduates who become future leaders, who behave ethically, who really think holistically, and who have also an approach on not only their own company they work for, but for the society as a whole. So future leaders who integrate business and society into their daily thinking. Therefore, we must train our students that they do not only have a knowledge in the different disciplines, but they have skills they can really apply to have a societal impact. And this means they must learn how to work interdisciplinary. They must know how they can do an ethical assessment in what they do. They must learn how they can interact with different cultures, different social backgrounds of people in a society or people in the company they will work for. So they need intercultural competencies, and so on and so on. I think we should not only focus on the content, but also on how the students will work in the future workplace as a human being.
Well, putting the things you've said together, what I've heard you say is something like society is expecting more of our graduates, for example, and even our scholars, perhaps, with our research. Meanwhile, I've heard you say how quickly business and even public sector management is changing those dynamics. And then I heard you reference that right under our feet, higher education is also shifting because of technology. Quite a challenge being a dean today, isn't it? You've been a dean now 5 years?
Exactly,
Yeah.
5 years.
Yeah.
I think 20, 30 years ago, students came to university, got their bachelor, maybe also a master degree, maybe a PhD, and that's it. And they started their career and they got retired when they were 65. These days, you get your degree, but 5 years later, much of what you have learned during your studies it cannot be applied anymore or has not yet been taught at that time when you went to university, such as AI. Mm-hmm. AI is changing rapidly now. The tools change rapidly, and also the possibilities AI gives to future or present leaders. It changes rapidly. Therefore, we need to train skills, how they can learn what they need in 5 or 10 years. I would say the buzzword is lifelong learning. The classical degree programs and continuing education comes closer and closer together. Young people learn from older people, but older people also learn from younger people, especially when it comes to social media, AI, etc., where younger people usually know much more than older people in the 40s and 50s and even 60s. So we must bring together different generations, and we must have a focus on the entire life cycle of a person from, let's say, 20, when we start to train people at the university, up to the 60s, maybe even 70s, because we need much more also the skills from all the people of our society, because we have a high need for skilled workers.
No, that's amazing how you've connected all of those dots and help us to understand the future of higher education, not just the future of business. Now, my colleagues would give me a hard time if I didn't ask you this question. We've already covered a lot of territory, but they would give me a hard time if I didn't ask you, why did the School of Management and Law join the Global Business School Network?
Switzerland is a prosperous country. We have a quite happy society. When you look at the rankings from the United Nations, for example, Swiss feel quite happy. But this happiness doesn't stop at the border or is not independent from the outside world. Switzerland has flourished in the 19th century and especially in the 20th century because it always had strong links to the rest of the world. Switzerland has been a hub for global trade, a hub also for global ideas. It is the country where the Red Cross has been founded. We had the previous organization of the United Nations, the Völkerbund, here in Switzerland. And so we have a long tradition of supporting the world in developing values and also in bringing prosperity to the world. I know not all people may share this anymore. We have become a society where national borders have become more important again compared to 20, 30 years ago when the wall came down in Berlin. But I think it's extremely important that our students and our graduates, but also our faculty knows that they are part of the entire world. And our problems can only be solved together with other nations and with other business schools, with other governments. And we hope that we can contribute to the prosperity of this world by joining the very prestigious network GBSN. And we really believe that we can learn from other countries, especially from the developing world. But the developing world and other countries can learn from us. And through this exchange of ideas, through the collaboration, and the real collaboration, not telling others what to do, we can really make the world a better place.
Wow.
That's what we believe, our vision. And I know we can only go little steps, but we want to contribute that we go these little steps.
Well, it'll be our pleasure, it'll be our honor to put you to work in those ways to help you make that difference. And I want to thank you, Reto, for meeting with me, for talking with me in your office, and having this conversation. It's been very insightful.
Thank you very much. Thank you for accepting ZHAW School of Management Law into the global network. We hope that we will not disappoint you, and we really are very happy to contribute to the success of GBSN.
We're already off to a great start.
Thanks.
Thanks.